I'm Chris.
I'm Natasha.
I'm Pete.
I'm Keith.
I'm Dave, and this is the Automation Village.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the June edition of the Automation Village. I'm Chris, and as always, this episode is brought to you by VTScada, the industry's most powerful SCADA software. And as always, I am joined by the industry's most entertaining show co-hosts, Natasha and Dave. Hey guys, good to see you.
So it looks like somebody left the back door open on the studio.
Yeah, we are outside, and for those of you coming to us, this is summer in Nova Scotia. You never know what you're going to get even later into June, so jacket it is.
That's right, unless it's pollen and mosquitoes, because you can guarantee you're going to get pollen and mosquitoes.
We have both of those today. So over the next 40 minutes, though, we are going to talk more about the weather. We're going to talk about emerging technologies.
That's right, and I'm going to have an interview with a company called Arcada, who's doing some really innovative things with augmented reality.
And we're going to check back in with a customer of ours that's also a customer of Arcada, the Gemini telescope. We're going to head up into the mountains of Chile, and we're going to see how they're putting AR to use.
That's right, and on that theme of trending technologies, we're also going to have our panel talk about some upcoming trends in their discussion today.
Producer Pete's going to check in with us, and he's going to run down his time at the SWAN annual conference that took place in Washington, D.C. recently.
That's right, and then Natasha's going to do her best to stump me with some questions, and we'll see how I struggle through those.
And to round out the show, we are going to go through some of the new powerful features that we released in VTScada version 12.1 earlier this month.
Glad to see that you're out in the outdoors. But first, it's industry news with Keith. Hey Keith, welcome. Good to see you again. Now, I believe you're going to tell us about, speaking of software updates, you're going to tell us about one of the most significant upgrades to the firmware of a mobile device ever. And that also takes us into the realm of our usual theme of robots in space. Is that right?
Absolutely. So with Trihedral's recent release of VTScada 12.1, prompting lots of our customers to upgrade software, and as you say, our love of starting the Automation Village news segment with a space story, it was with interest that I read John Finningus' article about the European Space Agency upgrading its Mars Express Orbiter's instrument, which is the Mars Advanced Radar for subsurface and ionospheric sounding, or MADIS for short. Nice. The software that is 19 years after its June 2003 launch. Now, for context, the original code was created using a tool set built for Windows 98.
So you thought you were putting off your Windows update a long time. Now, I know when I get my my update to my iPhone software, I'm always excited about what new features I'm going to get. So what new features does the Mars robot get? Can it cut and paste now?
Well, I think Clippy might even make an appearance. Yeah, no, the update promises to dramatically improve the Mars Express craft's efficiency. So the initial approach gathered large amounts of high-resolution data that quickly swamped the memory. With the new software, scientists can toss out unnecessary data. This lets the MADIS run for 5 times longer than before and cover much wider swathes of Mars and Phobos in its given pass. And in case you haven't heard of it, Mars Express is probably most famous for its discovering previous signs of liquid, water in fact, on the red planet.
That's very cool. Now, moving from the universe to the metaverse, this is something new. Now, I had heard of augmented reality and virtual reality, and now I'm learning about the metaverse. What's that about?
Well, this edition of the Automation Village is looking at emerging technologies, and few, if any, receive as much hype as the metaverse. Now, such is the extent that more than 40% more companies mentioned metaverse in their company filing documents during the first quarter of 2022. And that's according to the researcher Global Data.
Right. So just for the sake of my dad, hi dad, could you explain exactly what the metaverse is?
Hi, Chris's dad. Great to have you on board again. Um, Look, in its simplest term, the metaverse is a network of 3D virtual worlds that uses technologies such as virtual and augmented reality to help people connect in richer ways, more than is possible in the traditional, flatter, two-dimensional internet.
Right. So so that's what it is. What are we hoping people will do with this? What are people investing all this money so that people can do?
Great question. So, gaming and entertainment is among the most obvious initial opportunities for metaverse style technologies. Distinguished Gartner analyst Mark Ruskinko suggests that the challenge of filling the human field of view with a realistic and immersive image space is an incredibly hard problem to solve. We've seen exploration of this type of technology with augmented reality, such as the HoloLens. We even have a video of it on our YouTube channel, and being used in a sewage or a water treatment plant to protect the operators from potentially dangerous situations.
Interesting. So I guess one way to do that would be to bring a number of people from a variety of different places into one single control room, for example.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard to tell if, physical control rooms will migrate into the metaverse, but certainly you can imagine diverse and large SCADA systems, SCADA control rooms, a virtual environment, meeting in the same way as we meet online now with Zoom technologies, but now with more augmented and more data being presented in a 3D virtual environment.
Right. So that's really interesting. I mean, now that'll hopefully lead to a whole new way that we approach monitoring and control, and not just another way to do it.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So,
You've got
finally,
something really quantum coming up, right?
yeah, absolutely. I was going to say my last piece in the news here is a world first. Australian quantum computing manufacturer Silicon Quantum Computing, or SQC for short, has announced that they have developed a quantum computing chip that integrates all the necessary components found on a classical computer chip, but at the atomic scale, making up a functional quantum processor. Now, this quantum processor was then put to test by using it to model a small molecule in which each of the atoms has multiple quantum states. This is something that a traditional computer would really struggle to do.
Interesting. So now, whenever I hear about quantum computers, I just sort of think, oh, great, now I'm going to need to make my passport or my password to log in a dictionary long. But that's a really interesting application.
Yeah, I mean, this opens up possibilities that the quantum processor can be used to model, for example, other more complex molecules, such as pharmaceuticals or materials for batteries, to give us a better understanding of the way that the world works down at that atomic level. This is a big step forward, and it's come less than a decade after the team's 2012 declaration that it had fabricated the world's first single atom transistor. And it's been achieved 2 years ahead of schedule. The milestone of the atomic scale integrated circuit, it's a culmination of 20 years of research led by Simmons and his team. It delivers on the challenge. It was first postulated by the pioneering theoretical physicist, Professor Richard Feynman, in his famous 1959 lecture, Plenty of Room at the Bottom.
So I guess this means that going forward, since this is just the beginning of this technology, maybe in the future, we won't even have to bother with passwords. So that's a good thing. By the way, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because it's quantum, you'll have both passwords and no passwords.
That's right. And we'll follow up with what that means later. Also, we'll post a video of that Dave Spencer made about augmented reality to the forum if you want to go check that after the show. So thanks, Keith. And one last question. In terms of emerging technology, what technology do you wish would emerge this week?
I'm hoping for a time machine so that I can get some more hours in the day to get through the amazing workload that we have at the moment.
Great Scott. Well, thanks, Keith. That's great.
I had great pleasure recently in attending the SWAN conference that was held this year in Washington, D.C. SWAN is the Smart Water Forum and really is the place to go if you want to find out anything to do with smart initiatives in the water industry.
One of the things I have enjoyed most about being here this week at SWAN is just the fantastic energy and collaborative environment.
SWAN adds a ton of value in connecting the whole ecosystem. So the technology players, utilities, we're an investor, so we get to see the whole picture of the industry when we're here.
We're really making an impact on the industry. We're sharing knowledge, information, and transforming the way that smart water is done in the industry.
The whole conference this week has really delivered in terms of value because, you know, it's not death by PowerPoint or reading off a script. Everyone's really engaged and providing really great insights and examples about what they're doing. Really glad I came in person.
It is incumbent upon us to not only innovate, but to do so in a way that closes the divide, that ensures all communities are better for the investments we make.
Yeah, the great thing about SWAN 2022 is that everybody here has a similar agenda. Everyone wants to learn about the same things, network with the same people working in the same industry. It's a very concentrated conference.
The round tables, oh my God, they were so fantastic. You know, the energy, the buzz, the thinking, the commitment to progress. Everybody participating in those round tables were absolutely passionate about the topic, absolutely passionate about taking it to the next level.
For me, I find SWAN to be fairly unique in the industry. When you come to SWAN, there's always someone new, someone interesting, which is great for me working in innovation. But I think the real unique thing to SWAN is the depth of the conversation that you can have with people here. They're meaningful connections that I make when I come here. If I only went to one event in a year, I would choose to come to SWAN.
Welcome to today's version of the Automated Village panel. I'm joined today with Ian and Pete, and looking forward to a great conversation on emerging technologies. How have you guys been doing in the previous couple weeks?
Oh, it's been warm. Has it been warm for you?
It's kind of cooking.
We are almost in quote unquote Hades here of a biblical fashion. Man, I tell you what, speaking of hot, the latest thing we talked about during our planning session was these new quantum computers. And so it kind of made me a little hot around the collar based on all the things that I've been personally doing, and we've been doing it as a company, trying to do two-factor authentication, long passwords, to find out that maybe all this stuff is going to be a little bit more difficult in the future. And immediately, Ian chipped in and said, hey, man, I know just about everything about quantum computing that there is to know. So with that, I'm going to throw it off to Ian to talk about quantum computing.
Oh, why, thank you so much for that, Lee. So first off, there's a bet running here on whether or not I can explain quantum computing in under 2 minutes. So we're going to give that a try right now and why it's important. So to understand quantum computing, let's start by understanding the types of computers that we have today. You ever notice that there are a lot of tools out there that start out at being able to solve several different things, but then over time, they just get progressively better and better at solving one particular problem? The types of computers we have today are a case study in that. They are all based off of a hardware architecture that was intended to solve one problem really well, which was stacks of linear equations, which would allow you to achieve optimality in a world that did assume a whole lot of simplifications, but it was better than not being able to do any optimization at all. They were also built to solve a problem in the same manner that humans back in the Second World War had figured out how to do by hand. So what is quantum computing? The computers we have today solve things by going on and off, and everything has to be distilled down into something that can be processed by something being on or off. Quantum computing should just be, forget the word quantum. What they're good at doing is solving problems completely differently. You no longer have on and off. You have multiple different states that you can switch between. And the result is that you're able to solve certain types of optimality problems quite differently. Cryptography is largely based on making problems that a normal computer cannot solve easily. And the result of quantum computing is that a certain subset of cryptographic libraries are going to become quite susceptible to being broken. These are mostly known as stream ciphers, which systems that were able to do cryptography very quickly and cheaply. So elliptic curves are one that are quite susceptible. And the implications of this for you and me are, well, first, our tax dollars already fixed this. So, and they fixed it 7 years ago. So what you need to do, if you haven't already done it, is you should be implementing the CNSA suite. This is something that will buy you enough time to wait until the post-cryptographic algorithms are fully released, but they will be resilient for now. And if you have a dedicated IT team and they have not done this, they ought to have done it. The NSA supplies a set of capability implementation guides, which you can download. I think we'll be able to post those up in the Automated Village. And if you don't know what you're doing from a cold start, it takes about a week to implement these things with some simplifications. For you as an individual, the key risk here is that people have been grabbing lots and lots and lots of data that's been encrypted for a very long period of time, and they're storing it, waiting for the day when they can decrypt it. Now, certain things doesn't matter if they get decrypted later on. It's just a cat picture. But some stuff does matter. So what you need to do is for those things, cycle out those values. So you can buy a password manager, which clearly everyone on this on this event has, and that will allow you to have the thing automatically shift your passwords. And the other thing is to create a time-delimited trigger, which would be multi-factor as well. And then finally, if the world really does end when these things get busted in large volumes, download the things for your personal life that matter, put them in cold storage and keep them separate. So that way, irrespective of what happens to a particular company, you still have the things at home that you care about. Now, all of that is doom and gloom, but quantum is not being invested in for doom and gloom. It's being invested in for what's possible, which is where I'm going to hand things off to Pete.
Yeah, well, thanks, Ian. I guess I've been thinking about this from call it the cyber-human kind of component, right? Machine learning, AI, even augmented reality systems. All of these kind of things are, I guess, more better achieved using quantum computing, much easier in reality. And I was only thinking that humans aren't binary. I mean, we're not. We're not really binary individuals. We're always basing it on multiple kinds of data and feelings and stuff that we're not even sure of. It's a hunch. It's our spidey senses, you know. So I was kind of thinking that, well, you know, as this whole thing progresses, we're probably going to find that more and more decision-making tools are going to enter our lives. They essentially already have, even though it mightn't be quantum computing, but certainly in forms of AI. And I was actually thinking about some different companies, and colleagues that I've met at different conferences. One of them was with a Can-Do, a decision-making type software. Bentley, that some of you would know, or many of you would know as well, in terms of what they have. And some colleagues as well that I've met from Royal Haskellning, DHV. And I would even throw the likes of SAP, global giant. And you see what they're doing in terms of trying to bring more and more intelligence into really kind of assist us. And you could really try and buck that trend and say, no, never, it can never be the case. But we use calculators, we use our phones, we use all kinds of things as assistants to us. And really, I think if we were to kind of be fair about it, if we were to embrace it, we definitely have to put in safeguards, the same as you wouldn't, turn a camera on your phone or in your home and leave it on there just for all to see. And, like you have precautions. And the precautions that I'd mentioned in a few articles that I was involved in writing there over the last month were really kind of, if you were to be, again, wise about this, you'd make sure that some of the, at least, the high level decision making that is happening in terms of the criteria that were used to make decisions to go against things like AI bias, that they become more transparent. Because if you just lock it up in a black box, it's going to be a problem somewhere. So at least even the developers need to be able to see what decisions or how decisions were reached. And I would say utilities and manufacturers and all kinds of companies that depend on AI and machine learning, you still need to have, I would insist on some level of transparency being there that allows you to see what or how the decisions were reached.
Wow, that's just amazing. I can only imagine that the time when we can take our AMI data on customer usage for water and to be able to very pragmatically look at the usage and try to predict where our losses of water are based on the current crises that are occurring all over the world and in basically California and the West with the water. These technologies both open Pandora's box for good and evil. They can be used for either. So I think that we need to embrace technology and march right on in. That would be my takeaway. What about you, Pete?
Yeah, same kind of takeaway. It's inevitable, and I would treat it like anything else in the automation world. It's there to, so quantum computing, it is going to happen. It's happening, but in terms of at a very practical level, we just need to embrace it, but embrace it and treat it like anything else. You just want to make sure that there's safeguards around using it, and yeah. So I think I look forward to seeing what the future holds, and hopefully it's not going to be Skynet.
Yeah. How about you, Ian? Do you have any closing points on this topic?
You can buy access to a quantum computer now for about $1.60 a second, which is a little expensive, but you can get onto them. And the piece that's exciting about this is that these platforms even exist, because for years we've spent our time just reading about it in books and hypothecating, and now you really can do something. And the things that you wake up in the morning and you think, what can I achieve now that I've got this tool? You give humanity a year or two, and you're going to see some cool things. I don't know what they're going to look like, but they're going to be really cool.
Wow, that's quite amazing. And this topic just opens the doors for future discussion about all different types of emerging technologies. Quantum technology also will, in turn, create more innovation going forward. And I look forward to having future discussions with everyone on the panel on these subjects. And thank you all for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Take care now.
You know how some of your big ideas come at really inconvenient times? Well, when I have an idea that I think is worth taking down, I'll usually try to reach out and do some quick prototyping just to sort of give that a high-level evaluation and see how realistic the idea is. And one of the things that I often turn to is the free version of VTScada, VTScada Lite, and that's because I can install it on all kinds of PCs, and VTScada Lite still comes with the Idea Studio, all of the different tag types, so the drivers, the trigger tags, the multi-write tags, a lot of the things that I use in custom widgets and some of the custom tag types. And so having those in VTScada Lite kind of allows me to develop in this smaller, more isolated container where I'm quite segregated from my real-world application. And I can be quite bold with that development because VTScada Lite also includes the integrated version control. So making big changes pretty quickly, doing very quick development, knowing that if I make a big configuration error, I can just roll it back and then try something else. I guess the point of this is to just give the advice that putting VTScada Lite on your everyday PC, even if you are a very seasoned, very experienced VTScada user, I think can have some big benefits because it just opens up so many opportunities to really practice and learn about optimizing your production application in a safe environment. And then those custom pages and custom widgets that you've created, you can just export those out of VTScada Lite and then import them into a full VTScada application if it has the development ability. I hope that's helpful.
Hello everybody, in today's interview we're going to be talking with Sean and Wiley from Arcada. Sean, Wiley, how are you guys doing today?
Oh, great to be talking to you.
Yeah, it's great to have you on the show today. So we're going to dive right into things because we just have a few minutes here. To kick things off, you guys are with a company called Arcada, and Arcada really specializes in AR augmented reality systems for industrial applications. So why don't you guys tell us a little bit, to start things off, about some of the differences between VR, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard about, and AR.
Cool, let's try to sum that up really quickly. Augmented reality and virtual reality. And so with AR, we are augmenting, 3D objects into the real world. So, you look through your camera or through glasses and see your room exactly how it is, but, you might see a meter over there on top of a boiler and whatnot. And with VR, you could think of it as you put on those glasses, you're transported to an entirely new place. We're using the VR aspect in our app with, digital clones. So you could be on one side of the world, put on your glasses, or just be looking at your phone and see your digital factory exactly how it would look, but from anywhere.
Right, that's very cool. So tell us a little bit about your product then, what it is, and what kind of features you guys have to help people.
Yeah, and so our product, really, the idea is that anyone can whip out their phone and scan their environment really quickly, primarily in an industrial setting, and be able to see data, different types of documentation, diagrams of all sorts, and all kinds of things, including videos from people in the past, and just basically anything digital might be floating there right around an asset, right where they might need it. And so that's the big thing, is putting the information right next to your machinery, right where you might need it.
Right, yeah, that's amazing. I know so much information gets lost into network drives and folder structures and other things that, a lot of times people will try to make stuff and it just gets lost in its placement. So having it right there is pretty cool. So tell me a little bit then, who are you really specifically designing your product for?
So yeah, we're really marketing, and it's really designed primarily for small industrial teams, small to medium to large, really for the people managing them and for people trying to teach each other, trying to pass along information in those environments. So having access to all your SCADA data right there on the spot, or having the ability to film a video and leave it in one spot, leave it there for the future employees, or being able to train only once, film a video and have it pass along to the next generation. That's kind of the idea there. And there's all kinds of different use cases. It's exciting to see what people are doing and going to be doing with it. But stepping into augmented reality in an industrial workplace, it can serve all kinds of purposes.
Right, and you talked a little bit about having all of your SCADA data available. Tell us a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, so it's been exciting to work with VTScada. It's so quick how you can basically just import your tags straight into our system, pull them into folders, organize them, and then plop them right out there. And as meters, you can create different digital digital representations of pumps, valves, tanks, all kinds of interesting things. You can import 3D models, but the actual SCADA data comes in really cleanly, especially from VTScada. It's exciting to see how quick and easy it's been for people who've been using it. And yeah, it makes it available right there. Anyone with their phone can set stuff up right after that.
Right, and is it the phone that's actually querying the data, or what's kind of your user base look like? How does that work, just quickly?
Yeah, so it's we have cloud servers that are pulling in the data. We're going to offer these local standalone servers for more private security, vulnerable installations in the future. But now it pulls all the data up to the cloud, records it. You can decide on our web interface how to. What to record, what to bring in, and what to monitor, and then instantly everyone has access on the phone via communication to our servers.
Right, and you and I first talked about this in the wintertime, and I know that I was able to set that up quite quickly, create my user, and have the data available. It was very cool and very easy to set up. Tell me a little bit about what feedback you're getting from other people, in the industry, because I'm sure you've talked to a number of people by now to show your technologies.
I think there's a lot of, we've been hearing, a little disbelief until they actually use it. You really need to, put it in someone's hands. I think there's been a lot of promises of kind of the sleazy sales guys, pitching this AR thing. But yet, when you hear friends or someone who's used it and it just does not live up to expectations. And so I think, we're getting over that hurdle, but it takes getting, the product into someone's hands. Before you had to really go scan QR codes, or there's really long wait times to see what you want in AR, and there's just been a lot of trouble there. But as of about a year or two ago, the technology really has shifted, and we ran with it. And so, I think there's been a lot of disbelief turned into seeing, okay, wow, this could be something big. This really could help. Starting to work through the potential use cases that this could do. You kind of see that in people's eyes as they use it, and so that's been really exciting.
Right. Yeah, that's very cool. And I know that, as I said earlier, I have used it on my phone, and it does work. It is very cool. So tell me, you talked about a technological change a couple years ago. Tell us what was that change?
Yeah, and like Sean mentioned, the AR until a couple of years ago was really centered around scanning QR codes. And so only a couple of years ago, Microsoft made their Azure Spatial Anchors systems available, and that allows cross-device, really saving stuff in a local space by being able to scan your environment in all kinds of different ways. Recording it and then being able to localize yourself. And so that's the technology that really allows us to really create these giant experiences that are all coordinated and hooked up together. And so you can find things from one room to another and, display your entire facility's worth of information from like a quick scan on your phone. And so that's the big thing. We've jumped on it. We've added a whole bunch of interesting add-ons, features, made it, kind of improved it in a number of ways. And we're really excited to share just how easy it is with people.
Right, that's very cool. And where do you see your product in the next 10 years, say, or where do you see the space in the next 10 years?
I see in the next 5 years, I think a lot of people are going to be using their phones to do their daily job. They're gonna whip out a phone. You'll see this all the time, pointing it at machines, looking it around, kind of like looking where to go, and you'd look really weird from the outside, but they'll see an arrow pointing them how to get anywhere. And then I think 5 years from there, and probably about 10 years from now, we're gonna all be wearing glasses, or even there's already companies coming out with these contact lenses. And so, it's coming for sure. Phones are going to be one of the first mediums to make that happen. The glasses aren't quite there yet. We were experimenting with a HoloLens too for a while, and it's just not quite there unless you have a really specific use case. But the phone is, and Apple's new AR phones and these new Androids that are coming out can handle this stuff so well, where they have the LiDAR detection, and you get these 1 or 2 second scans. You can just point it boom, everything shows up. You don't have to scan a QR code or anything. And so that is just happening right now. And so, as soon as, everyone starts to realize that that is what's possible from these new phones, it's really going to, I think, take off. And then, all of a sudden, I think we won't be able to look back at a time that we, weren't using AR to get through our daily work.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that looking back at some of this stuff, it's going to seem a little bit archaic that you couldn't just pull out your phone and, imagine and see some of the values and some of the warnings and things that you'd expect on some of these assets. So that's going to be very cool. Well, I appreciate your guys' time today. So Sean Wiley, it was great to have you on the show. Now we're actually going to go to a VTScada customer and one of your customers and get a quick update for see what's going on in Chile.
All right, thanks, Dave. Great talking.
I'm the electrical supervisor for Gemini telescopes. We repair telescopes, one here in Chile and the other in Mauna Kea, Hawaii. 8.3 meter primary mirrors. And I've been working on these telescopes since 1996. Yeah, the Gemini telescope is part of the NORLab collection. And what we've done in the last few years is we've grouped together a number of telescopes under one umbrella known as NORLab. Due to the location of our telescope, we're at such a remote location, the VTScada came in so handy for us due to bad weather, days we can't get up. It's an overall program that we use to monitor a lot of our systems, services, power, coolant, compressed air, helium compressors, fire alarm systems, various systems on the site that we now have at least a connection with during bad weather and stuff like that, where previously we were locked out and we didn't really know how much what was going on up there. Yeah, once we had our VTScada system up and running, of course, I was on YouTube immediately checking out the systems and stuff like that, and I saw this one demo that showed the augmented reality being used on a set of HoloLenses. That really piqued my interest in that. I started researching it around the end of 2021. I'll see what I could find out there on the market. And I came across this website called Arcada. Looking at their webpage and their demo, it's exactly what I wanted. I wanted basically a hands-free walk around, look at our plant room systems and everything like that. I reached out to them. It's a pair of brothers out of Colorado, Sean and Wiley. I told them I was using the VTScada as my data collection program. I connected Dave Spencer from VTScada together with these guys, and then Eduardo Toro, one of our IT reps. We even set up a WhatsApp page between the four of us, or five of us, so that we could talk back and forth about what we wanted to do, how we could do it in order for Arcada to connect to the VTScada inside our firewall. And the really good thing about the VTScada Arcada thing is we used to walk around with a checklist and stuff like that. Now when you walk in and you look at a pump in real time, you can see what our amperages are on that pump, and you can pull up a real-time data logger, as you would say, a graph, and you can look back in the last week, days, hours, whatever, and to see any changes in the averages of these motors. That right there automatically gives us a almost like a built-in maintenance record. You can see what's happening. If you see our averages going up or our averages going down, we know either we're missing glycol in the system or we have bearings going bad. It's really cool stuff. Arcada and VTScada is such a perfect match. It works really good, and hopefully we will continue to expand on it to make it better and better and better.
as we mentioned earlier, this show is brought to you by VTScada software. And speaking of emerging technology, we just released a major new version that we'd like to tell you about, but we only have a few minutes, so strap in, folks. This is going to be a bit of a speed run. Okay, here we go. VTScada's development environment is certified to be compliant with IEC 62443-4-1, Maturity Level 2, Security for Industrial Automation and Control Systems. Now what does that mean? It means that security best practices are being followed at every part of VTScada's life cycle. Now this standard is rapidly becoming a requirement for mission-critical systems. 12.1 is built for speed. VTScada has always been fast thanks to things like its reactive programming language. Well, now it's even faster. Multiple PLC ports mean that there is more than one way to get data out of a PLC. In fact, in a plant setting, there could be dozens. PLC deadbands help to strip out meaningless data before it even hits your communication network. Now, this reduces bandwidth and saves hard drive space. Script bubbles expand how VTScada uses multiple computer cores to increase speed. The new Rockwell driver can switch modes and protocols on the fly to choose the best performance. And the new, faster, and smaller installer makes a huge difference when you're commissioning and upgrading applications, especially when they include a lot of servers. It's not a new version without new and enhanced communication drivers. The new Delta driver is our gift to all the Delta folks out there around the world developing VTScada apps for their Modbus-based PLCs and VFDs. That upgraded Rockwell driver we just met a moment ago supports most Rockwell and Allen Bradley PLCs. 12.1 also includes a new Honeywell Mercury driver, an updated Modbus compatible device driver, a Mitsubishi driver, and an update to the SNMP agent with expanded support for version 3, which increases security. Version 12.1 solves an industry-wide problem faced by any system that sends spoken alarm notifications to its users. Specifically, the physical voice modem device that traditionally sends these messages are now all but extinct. Now, we'll keep supporting modems as long as they last, but we're now very happy to provide a VoIP-based alternative. So now you can use an analog telephone adapter or your existing VoIP phone system to send out voice alarm notifications. No modems, no internet required. Batching is critical in industries like food and beverage and pharmaceutical, where repeatability and traceability are really important. Now, some of you know that we've been creating custom batching solutions for decades, but now this functionality is built right into the core product. Embedded video is a handy way to validate important values on your screens. If the PLC says the gate is closed, you can easily just look at the video and make sure that that's true. Embedded browsers are a great way to share just-in-time resources with users, such as weather maps, training videos, and PDF maintenance manuals. Now, I think we all find that using multiple PC monitors is a great way to increase efficiency. But what about people using thin clients to configure VTScada applications? No problem. VTScada thin clients now also support multiple monitors. Now, many industrial systems are moving away from single-purpose operator interface terminals in favor of a touchscreen PC that's running another SCADA workstation. Now, VTScada supports this now by seamlessly supporting the native Windows on-screen keyboard. Now, these ease-of-use features go out to all those VTScada script coders out there. You know who you are. Now, it's even easier to choose from the 700 pre-built functions that you can add to expressions to provide advanced functionality. You can also choose from pre-built expressions, or you just create your own and then add them to the library. Our built-in alarm notification rosters also got a major upgrade. You can easily drag your contacts into whatever order that you want. You can add custom delays to each contact, and you can even send out multiple notifications in one burst by setting no delay between them. The SCADA tag browser also just got a lot more efficient. You can perform control actions right from the browser, effectively making it like a mini HMI without drawing a single tag to a single screen. You can save time by filtering tag attributes to easily identify those tags that haven't been commissioned yet. And you can automatically import tags directly from OPC UA and OPC DA servers, which saves a lot of time. Now, many of you know how easy it is for third-party reporting or business systems to pull data directly from the VTScada historian. The new SQL view tag increases this efficiency and reduces bandwidth by letting these systems query a virtual table of pre-selected tags rather than needing to search through the entire database. Okay, so those are the highlights. VTScada 12.1 is available now to download from our website. Just scan this QR code. So let us know what you think. Now, back to the show.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Questions with Nat. Definitely my favorite part of the show because I love trying to stump my coworkers. So let's get right into it. And this was a question that came in via direct message. So, Dave, I am looking forward to the new features, especially recipe management in VTScada 12.1. But I'm nervous about installing the bleeding edge version of any software. How do I know this is ready for the real world? Good question.
Right. Okay. So I think this question isn't necessarily about just using recipe management, but the whole of VTScada.
Yes.
And statistically, VTScada, for as long as I can remember, has been actually tracking the statistics on issues that customers have had and in what versions those are. And statistically speaking, running the latest version of the software has always given our customers the best experience for their application. So not only that now, but VTScada 12.1 is also IEC 62443 certified. And if you've never heard about that, take a good dig through some of the recommendations and requirements that you're currently working to, and you'll probably find somewhere in there a reference to IEC 62443. And we're seeing a lot more customers actually requiring that now of their software vendor. So IEC 62443 is both quality and security practice from a third-party certifying authority that basically certifies VTScada as being as good as we can make it.
Yeah, because I mean, we work in the marketing department, so we can stand here all day and say...
We're literally paid to say that it's great, you should always
That's right. So, I mean, we're always going to agree with ourselves, but having a third party tell us that now feels pretty good. So thanks so much for that, Dave. I think the next question is a really good one for Keith. So I'm going to have Keith come back in. Yeah, I knew you would. I'm going to have Keith come back in for this one. All right, get ready. I am starting to hear talk about using blockchain in industrial systems. What is that, and do I need to start learning about it?
Great question.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. A nice easy question this week then. I'll need to get producer Pete to put a sarcastic banner up. This is not an easy question. So let's start off with, what is a blockchain? So a blockchain is a growing list of records called blocks that are securely linked together using cryptography. Now, each block contains a cryptographic hash of the previous block, a timestamp, and some transaction data, which can be really anything. The timestamp proves that the transaction data existed when the block was published to get this into the hash. As blocks each contain information about the block previous to it, they form a chain, with each additional block reinforcing the ones before it. Okay, blockchains are resistant to modification of their data because once recorded, the data in any given block cannot be altered retroactively without altering all of the subsequent blocks. So blockchains are typically managed by peer-to-peer network for use as a publicly distributed ledger, and the blockchain was popularized by the use of the cryptocurrency Bitcoin. So this isn't dissimilar really to how VTScada Historian works or the VTScada version control system works. And potentially a blockchain could be used to store this data. However, there are potentially better solutions to this problem that require far less effort to achieve the same or better functionality and performance. Blockchains are very, very energy intensive to generate all the crypto hashing that is required for the storage. So I'm not yet, I guess, convinced of a use case where blockchain could be utilized in an industrial automation environment, and at least not at the SCADA level. I mean, I can foresee bigger global systems like supply chains perhaps making use of it. In summary, blockchain feels a little bit like another buzzword, a solution looking for a problem to solve which might have already been solved in a better way. I'll stop there because this might turn into another one of my IIoT rants. So I'm just going to leave it there. But if any of our viewers disagree, I'd love to hear comments or feedback. So please do get in touch on the forum. And Natasha, thanks for throwing me under the automation bus once again.
Well, that brings us to the end of another show. Thanks to Paul Collins with Noir Lab, Wiley Chenoweth with Arcada, Lee Kibler with Riviera Utilities, and Ian Schmertzler with Dispel. Now, as always, we like to end each episode with some remarks in a segment we call Closing Remarks. Pete, what do you got?
Yep, just the usual. Remember to hit subscribe to our YouTube channel and any other social media channels we have, and to our forum as well. So make sure that you check that out. There's lots of great content.
All right, great. Keith, go.
If you need a certificate of attendance for professional development hours, there is a link on the forum and in the chat.
Thanks, Keith. Nat.
All right, so we heard a lot over this episode about VTScada version 12.1. I'm going to put a link to 12.1, a list of all the new features over in the chat, so make sure to check that out. As well, if you want to get notified as we release more versions of 12.1, there will be a form there for you to sign up for VTScada version release notifications. And Dave, what's the best way for people to try out 12.1?
Right, so definitely the best way to try out 12.1 is to go ahead and download VTScada Lite. That's our free software for up to 50 I/O. Even if you have a production system, you can grab a laptop or anything else, install VTScada Lite on that computer, test out some of the new features, even connect to a lot of your PLCs and other things, and try out some of the new stuff and see what features in there might work really well for you.
And that's it for this episode. Thanks again. We'll see you in July. Bye.